Checking for the mic test. Yep, looks like the mic works. Woo. Let's see if it even shows up. Woo, it does. All right, I'm actually gonna get started in less than 5. I'm just gonna start now. Okay, so I'm looking at my Umberly model here and just trying to get it all finished up. So the concept art was definitely overwhelming because it is, I don't want to say it's too good because that sounds ridiculous. I mean, look at it. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm really glad that what I have does look somewhat different. I mean, the key features are there, but it looks different enough. So right now I'm trying to figure out how to get, let's see, canvas is all weird. So actual, why isn't this working? There we go. Trying to figure out how to deal with like the tentacles and this like dress vibe at the same time. Concept art is amazing, but I'm not crazy about the way her torso flows with the tentacles. So I'm trying to like think of like the edge of a clamshell almost with these edges here. If that makes any sense. I think it'd be really fun to paint too. All right, let's just get going. You know what? I'm actually gonna avoid it entirely and work on the hair a little bit. I really want it to look like it's weightless because she'd be underwater. Not totally sure how to communicate that, but somewhat optimistic. If I just kind of tilt these tentacles upwards a little bit, I think that should communicate that. That is not going to be the most fun thing to print. Let's make that a little less vertical. I do my best to keep in mind all my FDM people out there. I'm not the most considerate with it, but I do my best. If I know a resin printer would have no problem doing this, but I keep it in mind. Let's see. I'm still so happy that there's now folders in ZBrush. I wasn't sure I'd care that much. Turns out I care a lot. It's been really, really nice. I'm not sure what's going on with this model right now, but usually what I have selected is a lighter color than everything else. I'm not sure why that's not happening with this model. I probably clicked on something and I don't know how to change it. So if you notice I'm having a really hard time switching between subtools, that'd be why. I've never had that problem before. Trying to make the ends here a little bit thicker too. I have this really light, like spotted texture on them right now. Trying to thicken that up. Clear. Let's see. I don't want that. I want a pinch brush. There we go. Okay, I like how that's going. Let's see if I back off from that. Yeah, that's a much better flow to it. in the end, I think I'm gonna merge all of like the hair tentacles together and then kind of pull them away from her back a little bit too. I'm trying to think of when I had really long hair and I was swimming, what that felt like. It's been a while. I've had short hair for quite a long time. This is like what I have now is like the longest it's been in years. I don't like how wavy that is. I'm not sure how flexible I want these tentacles to be. If that makes sense. I like that a bit more. Yeah, that's nice. It looks like I have to focus on the skirt tentacle thing. I've been really avoiding it. That's partly why I'm live streaming too. It's kind of a way to keep me a little more disciplined, I guess. When I'm bored, I have, or avoiding something, there's a really bad habit of just like, I don't know. It's not just like checking all like my social media, but like more like checking for things to do. Like, oh, emails. Is there an email I can respond to? Or literally anything else. Which is funny because I love modeling, I love art, but for some reason I'll avoid it sometimes. Don't know what that's about. I'm also not sure how I want to texture these. I know in the concept art I'm looking at, it's not even very like tentacly in the, I mean the shape obviously, but there's no like suckers on it. I might want to add suckers to mine. I feel like that'd be really nice when you paint it. You could dry brush that, really bring out a lot of details on the edge of the section rings. Or, I'm not sure what those are called. I think they're just called suckers. I think I also wanted to define it a little bit better along the edges here. I want to do that, but I don't want it to start to kind of mess either. Kind of like where that's going. Not sure. This probably is not going to be the most thrilling live stream because I'm just going to be trying to figure stuff out, which I think is important to share that process. Like if I was sculpting the face, for example, I knew exactly what I wanted. Like I did her face in probably like 20 minutes. I knew a really like strong, stern look. Umberly, which is what this model is, also known as the bitch queen. I really want that to come across that she just, you know, if you're that powerful, you control the sea, I'd probably not be that nice either. Ooh, okay. I kind of like an emphasis to her hip here. Might make this look more like gills too. I already have gills on her neck, but any shapes that accentuate the waist for this like kind of dress thing I'm going for probably be really nice. One thing is though, I'm not trying. I really want this bottom half to be really asymmetrical though, because I try to make the top very symmetrical. I don't usually do, but for this, I feel like it really conveyed like a sense of power. I'm not sure why I'm associating power with symmetry, but I did. Let's smooth that edge out a little bit here. Ooh, I like that. That's really cool. Oops. I know her body's already pretty unrealistic, but I kind of want to make it even more unrealistic and add some gills and really accentuate her waist. I'm not really sure how many, like, I don't know, typical organs she needs to fit down there compared to usual. Like, does she need a liver? I doubt it. I don't know. These are all things I think about with creature design. I'm like, I want it to be functional, but aesthetic. As aesthetic as possible. Let's see. I'm a huge fan of like shoulder pads or anything accentuating their shoulders on feminine models. Kind of gives it a more like androgynous look, and I've always really liked that. Ooh, I think I like that. I definitely like that. As you can tell, when I sculpt, I don't really have a set process in mind. I just go with it. Obviously, I have the concept art, which this does resemble more strongly than I expected it to, which I'm glad. That was the goal. I think the concept art is so beautiful, and I was very intimidated when I started this. I'm not really like super insecure as an artist, but I don't know. I don't really consider myself an artist. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but growing up, I played piano a lot, so I was a musician. And I know it's like, oh, musician's art. I'm like, just bear with me for the sake of this. I consider them to be kind of separate. And so yeah, I always considered myself as like a musician, and now I don't play very much, and I draw all the time. I sculpt all the time. So for some reason, it's been hard for me to like adjust. Like, oh right, I'm an artist. Just I don't, something about it sounds pretentious. I don't know. I think it's just a little bit of a case of a imposter syndrome, if you will. But I've also seen like interviews with professional artists, and they have a similar problem with that. They have a really hard time calling themselves an artist. I'm not sure where that comes from or why we do that. I mean, obviously, if you were to ask me, like, "Oh, are you an artist?" Like, I'm gonna objectively say yes. I'm not sure why this got so rough right here. Oh, that's something that happened with the pinch brush. I totally forgot about that. I kind of like it. It suggests that she has, like organs and bones, which I want her to look somewhat realistic. I'm also not sure how much I'm going to accentuate these swirl patterns I have here. Because that cut there, it's going to make it so it'll show up in a 3D print, but it's not giving that like a really light feminine vibe I was going for either. I think they're more like I'm putting in there suggestions to paint, which is funny I say that because I don't really paint a lot of my models. I just, as I'm sculpting, I have plans to, and then I just move on to the next model and it's never painting. Granted, for my Patreon, I recently reached a new goal, which means I'm making 12 models a month. And even it's like, oh, it's only 2 more than I was doing before. It's actually a lot more for me. I wasn't expecting to reach that goal, which I guess is my bad, until after I graduated. So I'm having a really fun time trying to see if I know I can make 12 models, but I want to make 12 fantastic models. Get me? I don't want to release something that's very simple just to meet the marker. It's been a good challenge for me. I know it's very early in the month, but I'm already trying to like consider and think about how I'm going to reach that goal. I guess it depends how intense the end of my schooling is. If you didn't know, I'm a mechanical engineering student, and it's not the easiest major, needless to say. My last semester, for most people, the last semester is really easy, but I was really determined to finish school in 4 years. So I've never taken less than like 17 units. If you didn't know, the normal is like 12. So it's always really demanding and time consuming, but I'm also not that person that fights for the A. I'm not content with a C necessarily, but I do what's necessary. You know what I mean? I'm not set on learning every possible problem set for thermodynamics, for example, and I'm not big on memorization at all. All right, I like how this turned out. So I use a damn standard brush to kind of go through here and define it a little better so it'll show up on a print, hopefully. But it's still looking really elegant. Especially on her breasts, I don't want it to look too creasy. I want to make sure it just looks accentuated. Creasy is definitely not a word. I love using my tablet. So I usually use my laptop and just use a pen on the touchscreen. But that doesn't have pressure sensitivity. So with this, I have a lot more like feel and range. I don't have to adjust my Z intensity that much at all. It's really nice. Kind of makes it a bit faster. All right, I really like how that's coming across. Kind of made this a little bit more swirly. I kind of wish I made it look more like seaweed almost, but I really want her to look elegant and posh. I'm not sure why, but I mean, I really associate like beauty with strength, so I want that to come across. I was tempted to make her a little, I don't know, uglier or less like classically pretty. Maybe like give like a hook nose or something that's a little less perfect. But I don't know, things in the ocean and they tend to be very symmetrical and just, I don't know, aesthetic. And plus, who doesn't like pretty women, right? I mean, if I'm going to be sculpting something, I'd rather be sculpting something beautiful than not just being totally upfront with that. I tend to like sculpting women better than men too. One of my favorite artists, Danny Mac, has a really funny YouTube video where he explains that he does sculpt men, but he just doesn't like to, and that's why you never see them, and I definitely could relate to that. Yeah, my zoom is all funky right now. There we go. I wanted it to be a little more ambiguous whether or not she is wearing clothes, kind of like this one, the concept art. I definitely did not succeed in that because it's so clear she's wearing the dress sort of thing, but that's okay. I still like it. I'm still not happy with the tentacles at all. I mean, they're not textured or anything, but I do my best to get the general shape down before I texture it. Because I notice that if I texture something that I don't like the general shape for, it will hide a lot of the flaws and not in a good way. It's just distracting from how awkward the general shape is. I'm not sure if I want to add like ribs or some sort of like gill-like texture to them yet either. I really like the idea of like the clamshell that I mentioned earlier. So it's gonna have like you've seen like the edge of like a giant clamshell. I mean, if you haven't, Google it. They can be like 3 feet in diameter. They're huge, really cool. My dad was really into scuba diving since he was a little kid. So when he got certified, I got certified. So I've been really lucky to actually be able to see a lot of these things in person and up close. It's pretty trippy. People usually ask too, like, oh, you go scuba diving, like, are you worried about sharks? I've seen sharks before, and they could not care less about you, just in case you were wondering. All right, this is starting to develop nicely. I think if I were to add some texture to this bottom of her dress almost, that'd look really nice too. I really want to make sure that there aren't any gaps between the tentacles and the dress. That's what I'm really calling it, because that'd be really hard to 3D print. And really hard to paint. So I'm trying to get more into painting, just because it's a break from sculpting, which is always good to have different things artistically to kind of mix it up. But also because it makes me model a bit differently. Like, which was it? Oh, my Fae goddess. I was trying to paint her the other day. And yeah, it's a nightmare. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. It is like almost not paintable because I have that cape behind her, which is really typical, not typical, difficult to get in between. Her hair doesn't lay flat on her back, so there's this tiny area that you need to try and get paint in, which is also just not working well. So that makes sense to me why people probably assemble their miniatures now. It's easier to paint. At some point, I do intend to go through Mesh Mixer and take my larger models, like my Wyvern, and break it into sections. I really don't have a good reason for why I haven't done that already. It's not like pure laziness, I mean partly, but it's really because I just see how I can spend my time otherwise. I think people would rather have me be producing more models than just making my older models easier to print. Plus, a lot of like hardcore printing enthusiasts, they already know how to do that, and they have a certain way they like to split their models anyway. All right, this edge here looks really awkward. What do I want to do with this? That looks a bit better. If I'm really not sure what I want the shape to become, I'll usually just start going over it with a pinch brush, because obviously I know it's going to tighten things up, but sometimes I'll warp the mesh in ways you won't expect. It can be kind of nice from like an artistic standpoint. It's kind of like refreshing, I guess. use some clay polish on the edges here, kind of firm those up. Oh, awesome! I definitely like that. Okay, this is starting to come together. The biggest problem I have with tentacles right now is that, as you can see in the concept art, they're thicker at the top and they kind of thin out as they go. My thickest portions are towards the middle, actually, which looks kind of awkward. My issue is that whenever I thicken them up towards the base of like her dress, it kind of makes it look not proportioned well. So I just need to mess with that a bit more. See, I feel like that just looks too skinny. Right here especially is just not right. Smooth that out a little bit. Yeah, that's definitely too skinny. Looks weird. I know this isn't going to be a super easy 3D print, so I want it to be as easy as possible. That's why I'm trying to angle these tentacles to be more or less upright. That's also because whenever I print my miniatures, I just print them with the base flat. I mean, I know a lot of people are a proponent of tilting them like 45 degrees back, and I'm not saying it doesn't work, but for me, man, it just causes problems usually. So whenever I'm considering supports when I'm designing, I usually consider it with the base flat. Yep, these are going to be kind of weirdly balanced tentacles. I'm just going to accept that. That's just what I like the most for this. Oh, this one especially. I don't know what happened there. It's probably when I was just roughly concepting, and it's so weirdly fat. It's like a little foot. Be gone, foot. That's better. I'm really happy that she didn't come out with too much of like an Ursula vibe from Little Mermaid. Because I didn't want that. I wanted to seem a lot more elegant, ethereal, that humanoid vibe. I don't know, my undo history is taking forever to save. I always forget to go through and delete that. Let's see, preferences. Undo history. Yeah, I do not need 10,000, that's ridiculous. Let's go with 200. That is plenty. Alright, I'm gonna go through here and delete some of the undo history because I don't need it. There we go. That should be a little easier to save now. Alright, back to making the tentacles look less awkward. I don't even know what's happening with this one. So what I did initially with these tentacles, I just made one cylinder, I made it a little bendy, and then I duplicated it and moved it around. So these ones in the back here, they look identical because they are. I know that I probably could have just turned on radial symmetry, but I really wanted these to be as asymmetrical as possible. And when you design things in symmetry, even if you go through afterwards to try and make it asymmetrical, it usually ends up looking less organic, if that makes sense. Let's see, I want it to be clear that there's like some sort of like a weight on this tentacle, since there is, she's standing on it. That's when it was a little challenging for me with this because she'd be underwater. So me putting her on this base is kind of weird because it's giving the impression that she's standing. It's not necessarily what I want. I'm just so glad that I requested this. Like, this is such a fun request. My patrons are the best, I swear. And when I mentioned, like, oh yeah, it's Umberly, I didn't even know. I've never even heard of her before, actually. Oh, hello. I see you in the chat. funny, like as I keep working on each one of these tentacles, I feel like it's looking more awkward. But when I zoom out, it looks better altogether. So I guess I can't complain. I think my biggest issue here is that the bottom of this dress is so obviously circular. I think if I were to bring sections of this in, it's going to make this look a lot more fluid, which is what I want. So we'll try that, see what happens. As you can tell, I'm definitely not a professional. I just make it up as I go. Let's see what that looks like. Swoosh that in there really quick. Okay, I think that's gonna help. Or at least I hope so, because I'm committing to it. I'm gonna bring this side up a little bit. It's not like that. Ooh, what I should have done was, I should have considered a more like clear pose beforehand. Because once this top half is posed, it's going to be really clear like what emotion I should try to put her in. So I'll think about that. I'll consider it as if she was stepping forward with this side. I'm really glad I went for this kind of swirly look for the bottom here because I'm really warping the mesh right now. That's okay because it fits with the style I went with. That's one thing I'm definitely guilty with. Like the style that I have is very flexible. So there are some things, it's messy modeling is the best way to put it. So it might end up looking really good, but that's just because the way that I model hides a lot of mistakes. If you were to see stuff like those Funko Pops that everyone really likes, they're very simple. Those things are actually way harder for me to model because there's very little room for like error. It's a very specific look, very clean lines. If you mess it up, it's gonna be really obvious. That's a really good point. I could pose her like however, because she is not gonna care. I said the more I read about her, the more I liked it. I mean, she really has no other point than just terrorize sailors, and it almost sounds like she's just bored. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure her alignment's chaotic evil too. That's kind of what she does anyway. All right, that is definitely starting to look a bit better. Some motion in there. I think part of me is holding on to like this perfect little like a circle at the bottom of her dress. I was just thinking like a hoop skirt. I couldn't get that out of my mind. I got many of you have worn a hoop skirt, but just in case you haven't, it's very uncomfortable. Gonna add another ridge right here. Oh, this makes me want to become a better painter because like I know exactly what colors I want this to be. Not quite there yet. And I'm probably not getting there any sooner because I don't practice very much either. I'm hoping to have more time for that when I graduate. Alright, this looks good. This one's still kind of awkward, especially because it's so much higher than the other tentacles. So let's move this one around. Man, I'm having a hard time selecting the right subtools. I am not sure why they're all highlighted right now. I've never had that happen before. I am sure it's something that I clicked on and just didn't notice. There we go. That's much better. tell if I like this area or not. It kind of looks deformed. Let's just get rid of it and redraw it. Let's see, how many requests do I get a month usually? I want to say probably around 20. I think right now I'm able to get around 10 done a month, so I'm more or less keeping up. I have all of them on a post on my Patreon, and then I go through and I put them in an Excel sheet, and I like record the date of like when they requested it, who requested it, and what tier they're at, so that way I'm not forgetting about anyone. That's also because I just really like Excel sheets and data and analytics, which is a shame because the Patreon ones are totally inaccurate. I'll have like, I don't know, like 5 likes on a post and it'll say I had 1 view. And I'm like, that's not possible though. It's funny because it's not even like I'm obsessed with hitting like a certain view count or anything. I just like to know. I just think it's fun to know like what people are looking at and when. I've always found that really interesting. If I wasn't going to go into school for engineering, I was going to go into for statistics, actually. I know actuarial, there we go, science is similar to that, but it's so dry, I just couldn't handle. I'm really starting to like this. Probably gonna take a break from posing this bottom section a bit and maybe start messing with her arms and stuff. I don't like to focus on one area for too long because I notice that it'll start, I don't know, the style choices get a little stale. I start making the same choices again and again and again just because, I don't know, creature of habit, I guess. It's really easy when you're creating something and to kind of do it mindlessly, which is good to like be in the zone, but at the same time, it's when you design something and you're really conscious of like every stroke that you're making, it just looks more thoughtful because, you know, it is. I gotta say, I'm guilty of that a lot of kind of just going on autopilot, especially when I'm sculpting faces and stuff. Like, I already know it's gonna be, there's 2 eyes usually. I know how elegant or not I want it to look like too. Alright, I'm going to try and make these tentacles in the front a little bit thicker, because as of right now, it doesn't look realistic that it'd be able to support her weight, and even though she's underwater, I still want it to look reasonable, as if she was on land. Especially because she's on a base, which makes it seem like she's standing. That was not what I wanted. Let's go softer. Oh yeah, there is a huge variation people can print. That makes sense. It's fun to balance the two. I actually made a YouTube video about that recently, talking about what I consider when designing it and what's printable. Since I have a resin printer now, I got rid of my FDM one recently, actually. I gave it to a friend. I am a little more biased towards resin printing. But that's also just because that's how my style was anyway. I tend to like really thin elements, fragile, delicate look to things. But you can totally like design it like that and still make it easy to print for FDM. I haven't figured that out yet, but I'm working on it. So that's why I'm kind of thinking of extending these tentacles, making them thicker in this dimension right here. Because from the front, it's still going to look very dainty and thin. Also going to be almost impossible to print. No, not print, paint. If you print it without a base, probably be okay. Yeah, this is just gonna, painting this would just suck, regardless, probably. I mean, it looked really nice. Okay, I like how this looks. It's a little bit thicker. Yeah, it's looking really nice. Make it a little more streamlined. There we go. I think that's what I want the rest of them to look like. Change my focal shift. It's a really subtle change, but since there's so many of them, it's important. Yeah, definitely on a photon it wouldn't be too bad. I can't imagine putting this on my Prusa. As long as I angle her fingers, that's like one of the hardest things, upwards, I'll make it easier. I usually have all the fingers connected to some extent. This makes it a bit easier too. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, like the 45 degrees with the base and the build plate. I don't know, 45 degrees with the base and the build plate? I'm not sure what you mean. Because when I say like base and the build plate, I mean like totally vertical. Oh, and there is like a roughly like a 10-second delay to what I'm saying like in real life, I guess you could say, in what you're hearing. So if it sounds like I'm getting back to you really late, that would be why. Because the chat is in real time. Yeah, I bet it is kind of hard to explain, no worry. It's one of those things that's so much easier to just like show in like a picture or something. Ooh, I like that. At some point these tentacles, I need to just stop messing with them and just start to texture them, but I'm having so much fun like moving them around, getting like a different personality. Yeah, these two look nice. I really need to start paying attention to anything other than these two. Let's work on this one. This one looks really, really goofy. Like I can't decide what direction I want it to go to, so just like a wobbly straight line. All right, let's decide. It's gonna move back and forward. Yes, I like that. I gotta say, it's really funny now because I'm so close to graduating and I've been with the same group of people for a really long time. I grew up in a pretty small town and a lot of us ended up going to the same college. So I've known some of them since I was like 5. And they're like, oh, so excited you're graduating. What are you going to do? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work as an artist. I always think it's really funny because like graduating with a degree in mechanical engineering isn't necessarily the most obvious pick to do something artistic. I can usually save it, but like, oh, there's 3D printing involved, and then that can make it make sense for them. I don't mind. I don't feel the need to justify it at all, but some people really just, I don't know, it seems like it bothers them. They need it to make sense. I'm not saying that I would never work as an engineer to some capacity, but as of now, I really enjoy making my own schedule. I've always been a bit of a workaholic, so I love that I can get up at 8 a.m., work as long as I like on exactly what I like, feel really productive, and it's just such a better fit for me. I have got a few designing commissions that are just straight up engineering related. I recently designed a golf club driver that's going to be used in a hypersonic wind tunnel just to see like how the surface of the driver interacts with air. Because obviously aerodynamics are really important for golfing. So that was really fun for me because I ran simulations in SolidWorks and it's just straight up engineering work. I couldn't see myself doing it every day. Oh yeah, it depends on the engineer, but it's so hard for most of them to understand. Like going for something more artistic, there's a stereotype that engineers aren't artistic, which I think is really funny because there's so much design involved in engineering. Well, I guess depending on the engineering, but for mechanical, there's a lot of design involved, pretty much regardless of what segment you go into. There we go. Oh yeah, go for it. I will check it out. I have the chat on my phone, so I'll be able to check that out just on my phone with keeping the screen consistent. Let me check this out. Oh, okay. I totally see what you're talking about now. For some reason, that just was not clicking to me. Okay, that can definitely work. For me, when I printed my bases, not just perfectly flat in the build plate, they end up not perfectly flat because you have to sand off the little support marks, which is not that much work at all. I'm just lazy, and if I can keep it perfectly flat, I do. That's a really good idea, actually. Because that way you're getting the best resolution in the face and really just the entire model, actually. That gives you something to think about. Thank you for sharing. You were very fun and helpful. Thanks for joining. It's funny, I like to stream a lot, not even just so much to like chat with people, but because it keeps me more focused. Because I feel like I'm being held accountable if I just start like wandering to different parts of the internet instead of just modeling. Oh yeah, there's definitely less suction on the bed in the FEP film, which is something that I had problem with some of my other models. Because I have some models that are really delicate, so I can't hollow them out really, but then suction force is definitely an issue. Oh yeah, that's a really good point. So if I just tilt them back 45 degrees, that'd work really nicely. I have some models in mind that I should probably try it with later today, this weekend. Oh yeah, it's always nice to have background noise when I'm doing stuff like this, even if it's just me talking, making the background noise. For the most part, I usually listen to a lot of like podcasts. I'm a really big fan of listening to podcasts I don't normally like agree with too. Like my views are somewhat liberal, so I love listening to like conservative podcasts and like I don't know, just broadening my opinion on things. There we go. Kind of concerned with this line happening here. I don't want to look too symmetrical, so I'm going to pull this tentacle up to break that trend of just going straight down. Oh no, don't crash. Just save. Just not gonna touch it. Sweet. I know I have that pretty scheduled every 10 minutes, a quick save. I don't already, but every time it stresses me out, it's gonna crash. I'm gonna read that comment out loud just for people to watch the stream afterwards. Someone just commented that my cat literally brought my meat or water dish, looked at me, and splashed on the floor. Oh, I love cats. That is fantastic. I'm actually like going home this weekend because my dad's out of town and we have two cats I just love to death, and they're just like that. The best cats are brats, I swear. I used to live in the country when I was growing up, and we had like 7 or 8 cats. We only got like two from an adoption center, and they just started showing up. I swear. So growing up, I always had a ton of cats. I love them to death. We had a couple dogs too, so we might have kept them separate. They didn't get along at all. There's two big German shepherds, and they wouldn't have ever like killed our cats per se, but they definitely weren't like those cute Instagram photos where like laying on each other. Like we'd never had anything like that. Oh, that's funny. Yep, crazy cat dad. I get it. My dad's the same way. He wasn't crazy about cats either, and we ended up getting a few, and now he's known as Catman. Literally, like on all his birthday cards and stuff. That's what people call him. Let's see. I'm kind of tempted to do something a little different. Do like a pulling this way out and doing some like asymmetrical dress thing. I feel like that would come across as just another tentacle, which is not what I want to do. Probably gonna spend about 10 more minutes working on this segment before I move on, because I can already tell that I'm starting to get kind of stiff on it. That looks weird. Okay. I need to bring this out more on this side. No, I'll just go back. There we go. That makes more sense. Come on. I'm gonna grab that section. There we go. All right, that's looking pretty messy and disorderly in an aesthetic way, which is what I was hoping for. Gonna get this edge here happy where I like it, and then I'm gonna move on to posing her arms and giving her a little more personality. I think it's gonna help me a lot with posing the rest of her, just because I want it to all fit together and make sense. Speaking of, I actually like this better how it was before, so I'm just gonna go back. Something I really recommend for all modelers or just artists, if you're working on something and it's just not working, just go back to where you were at. If you keep fighting the same thing, trying to get it to look a certain way, I found in my experience best to start over on it. Like for this model, this is actually my third time starting it. And I didn't find it frustrating or anything. I was just like, you know what? Let's just restart. Let's see if I get something that I like more. Obviously, when you restart, still keep your other files just in case you end up liking it more. Usually I don't. Usually I end up liking my most recent one the most. Alright, why won't this tentacle select? Alt, tap. Come on. Why are you doing like this? I don't have the tentacles labeled, so this is problematic. Alright, I hope that's this. There we go. All I wanted to do. The software is having a problem here. Oh, that works for some reason. There we go. Yeah, I definitely recommend learning ZBrush. It's a ton of fun. When I first started, though, I mean, like anything, you gotta learn it first, right? But I mean, the UI, the user interface for ZBrush is honestly just completely maddening. It is not intuitive at all. I hated it. So I spent 30 minutes a day learning just one thing, and then I just leave it alone. That way I didn't get frustrated or anything like that. Because everything you see on the screen is a custom UI. It's all stuff that I moved very specifically, and that's pretty much what ZBrush wants you to do. But what's frustrating is if you haven't modeled before, you don't know what you want, you know? So you'd think that they're custom, not custom, the base UI would make a little more sense. But oh well. Should probably do a video on that. Note to self. Yeah, so you mentioned that you used to print other people's models, but like to figure it yourself. I had the exact same thing. That's actually why I started learning to model. My dad was super generous, and he got me a 3D printer last March. So yeah, about a year ago. And by about May, I was like, you know what? I want to make my own stuff. So by August, I was pretty much modeling every single day. I think it's my very first commission I ever took. I used to do commissions for $15. It's so funny because I'm not kidding. These commissions would take me like a minimum of 8 hours. And I just loved it though. I thought it was so much fun to make stuff for people. I kind of want to go back to that, doing cheaper commissions, because as of right now, mine are like around 100. But I noticed that the more expensive my commissions are, the nicer the people are and more realistic the people are. One of the worst commissions I ever did was like $40, and they were just a nightmare. Like, the model I made was it's one of my most popular ones on Thingiverse, so I want to say it's a good model. But they just, man, they were so picky. They kept asking for these details that you couldn't see on a 3D print. But I wasn't gonna try that argument. He'd be like, "Oh, well, you can't see it." I feel like that was a cop out. So I just went with it, and I think we sent like over 100 emails back and forth of just them asking for these really specific, ridiculous things, and that was partly on my bad. For any like artists out there considering commissions, always have a contract, which I did, but I didn't specify alterations. I just did infinite alterations, which is really, I do not recommend doing that. I specify that I'll do 2 alterations in my contract, which is funny because I will do closer to like 10. I'm pretty flexible, but it's always good to over deliver and under promise. Because in my experience, and no one ends up being really disappointed. No, I doubt you're that crazy picky. Which which mini am I making for you? Because I don't recognize your name for some reason. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm so okay. I know exactly who you are now. I am so excited to make that one. Like I saw it and like I immediately smiled. Like it's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited for it. I want to say it's like one of the most unique commissions I've ever had too. Like I've never even seen a character like that before. And the idea of having those little toadstool drums, oh my gosh, I must talk to my boyfriend about like 15 minutes because I was just talking about like different character designs I can do for it and like detail work. I was gonna ask you about like making a custom base for it maybe. I could do like a simple base and then do a custom one as well because I don't know, I think it'd really contribute to the vibe, put some more little drums at her feet. Oh, sweet. Yeah. Glad. I'm definitely gonna make 2 versions of it then. I think because it's such a small character that it's not gonna take me too long to model. Even though it's simpler, it's probably gonna take me longer than it should, just because I'm not great with simple forms, as I mentioned earlier. Also, why I'm really glad that you requested it, because it's really good practice for me. Okay. I need to stop working on the bottom half before I make it look ridiculous. I need to do something else. Save this really quick and start moving her arms around. Okay, so she has a very like calm pose in the concept art. I like that. I want her arms to be a little more expressive. Kind of like the idea of having kind of like she's beckoning forward or something, kind of like the Fae goddess that I did. But at the same time, I've always been really concerned about my models being too similar. No one's ever pointed it out, even vaguely. It's just, it's all in my head that my models all look the same, which is funny because they're all wildly different. It's always a good thing to just, like keep yourself on your toes, though, as an artist. All right. I totally agree. I'd like to play as a tiny fog person. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I agree. I would be so excited for that too. It's funny, I've never really actually played like in a formal D&D or tabletop game. I've joined in a couple times, but they weren't really good friends of mine, and there was like 8 people, I think, or 9, and it was so slow and boring. But I knew it could be so much better. So I'm really excited to one day have my own little campaign with some friends. I hope to have a character as creative as hers too. That is just so cool. Alright. Definitely want this arm to be forward. Need this to be somewhat possible anatomically. There we go. That's reasonable-ish. Doesn't fit with her armor, but that makes sense. They're separate objects. Oh, it's cool that you DM though. Most people don't want to. I've always been excited about the thought of it, like world building and stuff. It just sounds like a lot of fun. I know it's a lot of work, but there we go. Alright, I'll go back through and clean up the details a bit later, because that was kind of a rough move. I grabbed some of her armor by accident. I want to tilt this forward so it's easier to 3D print, and it's a little more dynamic. You need to twist that a little bit. Yeah, I like this kind of grand gesture that I'm thinking about here. You know, I didn't even think about putting a weapon. I feel like her other arm here would be so awesome to put like a trident in her hand or something. It's a little stereotypical, but I mean, it works. Yeah, it is really cool how 3D printing and the D&D world are so conducive to each other. I don't think a lot of people expected to fall into that, especially because a lot of them weren't very like tech enabled necessarily, and now it's everyone's pretty familiar with it, which I think is really cool. All right, there's an anatomy problem there. She needs to have more definition in her forearm. That's better, and I can smooth that out after I disable the mask. All right, I have this masked off here. I'm gonna tilt our hand a little more upwards to really get that beckoning sort of posture across. You can always pose things with Z spheres as well, but for me, when I'm doing small like posture changes like this, it's more trouble than it's worth. Let's see, instead of doing that, I'm just gonna curl her fingers up. I really like how far away her arm is from her body, actually. Very grand ginger. Yes, I'm very much so going for that. You may be my presence, mortal. Very much, exactly what I'm going for. Perfectly said. I love characters like this. I know they're very stereotypical, but like, oh, I just love them. The movie came out a while ago, but it was Angelina Jolie as Maleficent, and I love that movie. It was so well done. All right, this needs to be tilted a little more. You know, I didn't think about that. That actually makes a lot of sense that a lot of stereotypes came from D&D. I'm pretty new to the whole D&D world, if you would say. No, I'm glad I tried to do it justice. Oh man, the concept art for this was so intimidating. It's just beautiful. So I am so happy the way this came out. There's definitely things that I'd already changed, but overall, I'm super, super happy with it. It's funny I mentioned like I'm kind of new to like D&D and stuff, but like I'm not new to like fantasy at all. Like most of my time growing up as a kid was playing video games, a lot of BioWare, so a lot of Mass Effect, and a lot of Dragon Age specifically. I'm actually replaying that game right now. Let's see. Oh yeah, the concept art's totally reminiscent of World of Warcraft. That's a game I've never played, but I mean, I love the art style. It's hard not to. It's known for being super detailed and consistent. I keep her thumb pointing upwards a little bit, or if I can connect it somehow, make it so much easier to print. It's also 90 degrees. Maybe I don't want to do that. Thumbs don't bend that way. All right, that's the best we're gonna get here. Ooh, let me check out that link. Come on, phone, you can do it. Oh my god, that's awesome. That is exactly what I'm looking at here. Oh, that is so cool. I love that. You know, that has like a really similar style, like the way the tentacles connect to the rest of her. Very similar to this one. I like what I did with it, but I don't know. The other one's really awesome too. The other one makes more sense. The other one's easier to model. I'm not sure why I went with this like clamshell dress thing. Once I started doing it, I just liked it too much to stop. All right, let's clean up this really wonky. What I should have done here was just go back through and fix the mask, but I didn't. I just kept going. Don't be like me. Just go through and fix it the first time. It will save you a lot of time. But since I'm not in a rush right now, it's fine for me. I can spend the 5 minutes. I'm not really sure why I don't live stream more often because I'm not shy about people thinking that it's, I don't know, I'm making mistakes and stuff. Because I think it's very clear that I don't think I'm a professional and I'm learning, so I don't mind too much. I love that comment. So for anyone watching this later, he commented, I prefer the dress from yours. A god is allowed to feel pretty. I like that. That is very funny. I agree. I also like how this can be painted really like ambiguously, like whether or not she is wearing a full dress or it's more skin tone, like the concept art. I kind of want to leave it open to interpretation. I know that there are some people that really liked my Fae Goddess, but they played with kids, and so the kind of like bikini thing she's wearing doesn't work well for a lot of people. I didn't change it though, because I'm like, I just like it. That's a good point. Most people are not professional 3D modelers, so they have no idea they're making mistakes, which I'm glad. When I get a little bit better, I would love to do more videos about like specifically how I model things. The reason why I haven't done it recently is just because I change the way I do things so much that I'd need to update the videos like every like week or so. I'm constantly learning new things. You could totally paint pants on this model. It would be ridiculous, but it'd be awesome. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Like, I'm not sure why people didn't just paint on pants for the Bay model. I mean, you really can. It'd be a little tricky because of the texture, but not really. It's a woman, and it's like elegant, so skinny jeans would seem normal. Yeah, I'm having a really funky time connecting this to her arm. We're just gonna inflate it till it connects and then redraw that line. All right, that's connected much better. Gonna go back through here with the damn standard brush. And in case there are anyone watching who is confused why this keeps popping up, it's because for some reason, when I use a damp standard brush, which is that crease, I type B, D, S as my hotkeys. And then for every other brush I use, I tap on it. I'm not sure why, it's a weird habit that I developed in the beginning. Something that I do. There we go, I like that. That's one thing I'm able to get away with since most of these are not painted, printed at miniature scale. If there's really weird or spots that don't make a ton of sense, like right here isn't very clear what's going on, it doesn't matter too much. I don't spend too much time perfecting it because I'd rather go back through and perfect larger details, like the flow of her hair or tentacles, for example. That's a big thing of the way I model. If I was gonna like describe my style, I would say efficient is one of them. I mean, the more accurate word is messy, but I like to go with efficient. All right. So I like the way her arm is positioned. I'm now going to move this left one a little bit. I'm going to bring it in a little bit, and I am probably going to put a trident in her hand. Even though I'm sure she has like whimsical power over the sea and stuff, I feel like being able to channel that through a trident makes the design even more clear. Even though it's pretty obvious she's aquatic already, I think a trident would be nice. I also want to make a version without a trident though, because tridents are very delicate, and I feel like that'd be a nightmare to print on FDM. Luckily, since this is like a goddess model, you can print her at a scale much larger than the miniature, so that makes it a little bit easier to print too. There we go. Whenever you're masking parts off in order to move them, it's really important that you move your 3D gizmo where the joint actually is. Otherwise, you're gonna have a lot more warping. And I'll give a quick example of that once my screen stops being weird. There we go. So there we go. So this makes a lot more sense. And say if I moved it here, for example, this is a really weird motion. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I've really been thinking about getting a different 3D printer just to have some of the bigger build plate. And it's funny because I print a lot of miniatures, but I really enjoy printing larger stuff too. It's the biggest thing I miss about having my FDM printer. Oops, I know what's happening. There we go. I haven't had that much experience gluing together multi-part models. I think it's part of the reason why I don't offer, or haven't split my models too much recently, because I just don't have a lot of experience with it. I feel like it shouldn't be too bad gluing together multi-part models with resin, because you could just set it with resin. You wouldn't even need glue. You would just put some resin there, put a UV pen or UV light, and it'd stick right together. I've broken a lot of models and fixed them that way. And the best part is, once they're fixed, I mean, they're literally as good as new. It's just the same as before. That's part of the reason why I prefer resin printing as well, because it's so much more forgiving too. People mention it's messier. I don't know if I'm just like super clean or what, but I have not noticed it being that much messier. Granted, I've really sucked at FDM printing, being totally transparent about that. So I had failed prints and pieces everywhere of little tiny pieces of plastic. So I thought it was pretty messy. Oh yeah, Miguel does. You know what? I lied. I have printed a lot of Miguel stuff actually that are multi-part. I had a friend of mine that wanted me to print some out for him, so I did quite a few of them. And yeah, you're right. I remember the alignment being a huge issue. I think it was like on his Orcus or something. Like one of his arms fit in really well, and the other one, it was just, I think it was too loose, which was the problem. It'd be nice if it was too tight because you can just sand it down a little bit. Let's bring this up a little more. another thing I kind of get away with because a lot of my models have organic shapes in them. I don't do very much sci-fi, if at all. So it's a lot more forgiving if I have this segment of the armor being more asymmetrical than the other side. And in fact, in a lot of ways, it adds to the look of it. All right, we need to separate her fingers a little bit more here. That wasn't right. Don't freeze. Oh no. There we go. Yeah, I agree with you, like never having an FDM printer in the first place. I think it's weird people are like, I'm getting into miniatures, so I'm getting $1,000 printer. I'm like, just get 2 photons. I never understand that. It's really not that messy. Granted, everyone's different. If you're more inclined to like spill stuff, I can see that being a problem, I guess. I'm being totally transparent. I have got a lot of resin on my hands, and I have not grown like a 3rd arm or something, so I read about the toxicity and the, oh, what is it called? I should know what this is called because I've been in school for engineering for 4 years. SDMS? Something like that. But it's really not that toxic. I totally agree. Print, wash, clean up stuff. Pretty simple. I have a towel that I use to set all my prints down when they're first covered in like a build plate, and I use like an X-Acto knife to pop them off. So there's like a bunch of lines on there. Yeah, I try to wear gloves as well. I definitely agree that'd be long-term exposure, just like sit on your skin, for example. If I have like only one miniature I'm removing from the base, I probably don't wear gloves because I don't want to be too wasteful. But if I have something that I know is like I'm gonna make a mess, I definitely grab gloves. I recently printed my undead wyvern again, and yeah, I made a huge mess. Oh, that's really smart to sand down the plastic spatula to a sharper point, because as it comes, it's almost useless. Like, I've actually had a lot of trouble getting my miniatures off of the build plate, but that's because I print with the base flat down. So without an X-Acto knife, it's really tricky. But it's also because I just noticed that my photon was, the way I leveled it, it was way, way too, what's the word? Low. Duh. I could not think of the word low. So my smooth thing is doing this thing where it's inverted, where it's not smoothing, it's making it look terrible. I don't know why it's doing that. I wish it would stop doing that. No problem. Have an excellent day. Probably gonna restart my program here since my brush is seriously malfunctioning. You know what? An hour is a good time for me to wrap up as well. I'm gonna be logging off here shortly. There we go. All right, overall, I'm happy with this. It was a lot of concepting and just moving the tentacles around somewhere I like. I know I didn't really touch the back ones at all, but they're really just not nearly as important as the ones in the front here. Next time I work on this, I'm going to try and make this a little more clear, whether or not there's motion. Like, I like that. You know what? Maybe I will mess with this a little bit more now instead of logging off. I can't be stopped. That's really weird right here, that there's so much of a gap. I'm gonna move this back a bit. You never want a design like this to get too symmetrical or predictable, but at the same time, you want it to be balanced. So I'm having a hard time with this making her look like she's standing too much, because that's really not the vibe I'm going for here. So I might end up doing a custom base to give her more of an appearance as she's floating. I don't know what is going on with the mesh right now. My brushes are all inverting for some reason right now. I should really just restart the program, but I don't want to. So I'm not going to. Why are you doing that? Just inflate. Why is the inflate brush pinching? Alright, I'm gonna have to. Just not for right now, I guess. Oof, this is annoying. That's me trying to use a smooth brush. And ZBrush just having a fit. To be clear, I absolutely love this program, and I generally don't have big issues with it. It likes to crash, but that might be partly due to my computer, maybe? No, it's not. I don't know. I still like it, even if it's annoying. There we go. That's all I have to say. I'm still not totally happy with this dress. I can't really decide if, like, do I want to be a dress? Do I not? I'm kind of all over the place with it. You know, that right there actually looks much better. I like that already. Nope, I don't like that. It's too long. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through the tentacles and add the same sort of ridges that I have in the dress. I think this is going to help make it look more cohesive, if you will. Let me up the resolution a little bit. Oh, it's so annoying that my brush is doing that. Probably annoying to hear me complain about it and not just fix it. Just gonna keep being unreasonable. Oh yeah, that is definitely the route I want to go with this. Might change my mind later, but this wouldn't be hard to fix if I decide. It's so weird. It's like my Alt key just isn't working. Am I not clicking it? No, I am. That's with Alt, that's without Alt. It's the same. All right then. Just want to get some rough concepting in here before I sign off. That way it looks significantly different than when I started an hour ago. I definitely didn't work very fast today, but it was fun. Adding these where I think seem appropriate, which means it's random. I might have added too many that were in pairs of 2. I can look at that later. See if I can add some an alpha on this that I like. Definitely way too strong. I don't want damp standard for that. I want to use clay buildup brush to something like that. I like that. I don't want to look too grotesque though by having a lumpier texture. I want her to look really elegant still. Yeah, it's kind of gross. I don't know. I don't want gross. Let's go with this bubble one. Ooh, that's really gross. What is happening by ZBrush? What is this? Alright. I think I'm just gonna stop. Alright, so there is the model of the progress I got on today. A lot of concepting. Not really anything happening quickly. Have any questions, feel free to comment below. I love answering and chatting about it. Until next time.